It all started when you was born. Your parents was excited to bring you into this world. They wanted to show you what life was truly about. And right after you was born, the doctor made sure to remind them to make sure that they registered for your birth certificate. And within the first couple of weeks of you being alive, they rushed down to the agency and applied to register your birth certificate. They filled out your name, they filled out their name, and they gave it to them for registration. But little did they know, they put you in the biggest trap of your life. How is that, you might ask? Let me take you down the biggest rabbit hole of your life. See, the government, or actually the elected and administrators of the government, took and still do to this day certified copies of our birth certificates and placed them in the United States Department of Commerce as registered securities. And these securities, each estimated to be about $1 million to $10 million, have been and still are circulated around the globe as collateral for loans, entries on the asset side of ledgers, and etc. Just like any other security. But there's just one problem. I don't think any of us authorized that. And if you've been paying attention to my content, then we all should know that the United States is just a District of Columbia Corporation. See, in Volume 20 of the Corpus Juris, Section 1785, we find that the United States government is a foreign corporation with respect to a state. And you can research this for more context. But since a corporation is just a fictitious person, meaning that it cannot see, hear, taste, touch, and etc., it cannot by itself just function in the real world. It needs a conduit, a transmitting utility, a liaison of some sort, to connect this fictional person and fictional world in which it exists to the real world. See, living people exist in the real world, not a fictional or virtual world. But government does exist in the fictional world and can only deal with directly fictional or virtual persons, agencies, states, and etc. And in order for a fictional person to deal with real actual people, like I said, there needs to be some type of connector or liaison. And this could be something as simple as a contract. See, when both persons, the real and fictional, agree to the terms of a contract, there is connection and there is business. But see, there's another way for the government to deal with real men and women, through the use of a representative or a go-between. But who is this go-between? And why hasn't hundreds of millions of Americans been aware of this go-between? And the answer is that the government created a shadow, a fictional man or woman, with the same name as ours. And this person was created by using our birth certificates as the MCO, and the state in which we was born as the port of entry. This gave a fictional government a fictional person to deal directly with. And this is a straw man. This is part 6 of the truth about your straw man. In my last video, I was discussing the case about Jerome Daly, and you guys can go back to the last video and view that for more context. Now, in the judgment of this case, it basically says that the issues tried to the jury were whether there was a lawful consideration, and Mr. Morgan, president of the bank, admitted that all the money or credit which was used as consideration was created upon their books. And further in the case, Mr. Morgan also gave the statement saying that no statute or code existed that gave them the authorization to do this. And like I explained, he won the case, and he didn't have to pay any more debt, and he was able to keep the house. And as you can see, they even tried to appeal it. It even says these Federal Reserve notes are not lawful money within the contemplation of the Constitution of the United States and are null and void. Now let me explain to you how this all works. In the beginning, I talked about how the birth certificate was created, and with that birth certificate registration, there was also a Social Security card that was registered to you as well. Or not you, but your straw man. See, when your mortgage is approved and you sign your name in these box letters, that gives the bank authority to go and use your straw man account. So they run to the Federal Reserve or some other big banks and show them promissory notes that you signed, basically giving them the authorization to access your straw man account. So they already get the 100,000, 500,000, 800,000, whatever the loan amount is. They already get it from your straw man account before the mortgage is even approved. Then they have you repay the amount that they already have with interest. And more times than not, when you're doing these loans, student loans or mortgage loans, especially mortgage loans, you're signing 2 contracts, 2 promissory notes. And what basically happens is that there's a swap transaction that all banks do to monetize your securities. There's even a whole private stock market that's off of the exchanges that these bankers use to trade securities of our strawman accounts. And in this case that I'm talking about, the second promissory note is linked to the mortgage contract and signed by the buyer, which the bank uses as securities to the Federal Reserve. Oh, and the Federal Reserve gets a piece of what is being paid back to the banks. And all throughout the bank's books, it's all based on debits and credits. And in the case of Jerome Daly, they actually admitted that they rearranged their books and never used the bank's own assets as debits to credit the buyer. Now, I know what I'm saying is probably like too much for a lot of people because it's just a different topic that usually is talked about, but I highly recommend that you guys look up this case yourself. Only read the official documents or the affidavit itself. Now, mind you, in 1933, FDR forced the public to give up their gold, and it was all for this. But the bankers used the ignorance of the people against them.